Welcome back to the show. It's a show within a show within a show. It's inception of the shows.
I didn't sign up for this, Robbie.
You signed up when you first accepted my random DM asking to be on a podcast.
Oh, there's that. Yeah. Okay. I can take full responsibility for this.
Look,
No
they
problem.
told you never to accept candy from strangers. You accepted a podcast invite from a 23-year-old that's doing a podcast out of ISIS's basement with this curtain behind him.
When it comes to candy from strangers, I feel like if it's still in its original wrapper, it's fine.
You ever hear that that's when someone used to tell me when I was a kid that they used to take a syringe and inject something into it. And I was like, I actually did a podcast about this. It's called the Halloween Candy Myth, where people were
Mm-hmm.
drugging Halloween. Happened
Yeah.
one time, and it
Yeah.
was a toddler that mistaked Fun Dip and heroin. And I'm like, okay.
What? Or like I think it did happen one other time, but like it was intentional, like someone trying to kill the child.
Oh yeah, the woman that poisoned those popcorn balls. But you never
Yeah.
accept homemade treats on Halloween. What the hell?
Unless you know the person well. And if you do know them, then you know where to go if you die. So, well, or your parents or loved
I was
ones.
about to say, how many stories led into like he was such a nice neighbor, then he just killed everybody. It's like, probably why.
Way too many. Or like the Tylenol scare. There was a podcast I love, the Dollop. They do American history stories, and they're two comedians. Amazing, phenomenal. It's pretty big now, but they did an episode on the Tylenol scare and the person behind it and everything. And it was like two bottles that got messed up, but everyone lost their minds. And he was, I think, trying to like give the company a bad name because he was a disgruntled worker, but they never actually caught the person, which is why I think it turned into such a big thing. But they pretty much know who it is. I think he passed away, but yeah, I was like, just one little thing ruins it for everybody.
You
So
said two very important things. One, have you ever found a pill just randomly? Like I used to work at a hotel, you'd find like pills all over the place. You
mhm.
look like Advil, Tylenol. You ever just take one, just be like, hey, screw it. It's gonna be a fun day.
When I do find those randomly, I do they have drugfinderpills.com or whatever, and you can type in the number on it. So if it's like M 75 and it's a white pill that's round, and it'll bring up probably what it is. I remember finding some and I'm looking at them and it's like antihistamine pill, or to help to lower your cholesterol. I'm like, these aren't fun. My cholesterol's fine. So no, I don't take one randomly. I've never done that, but I might have to next time. And maybe next time I go to the doctor, I'll be cured of any high blood pressure.
I bet you could probably like look up the statistic for it, but there's probably a large percentage of people that work in hotels that are just drug dealers, because you would get like we would get a lot of old people that would stay at the hotel, so they
Uh-huh.
would leave a lot of like their pill containers and stuff behind it. Like you start googling like through the lost and found, you're googling like, oh,
Yeah.
here's a sweater, it's $25 on eBay, I could sell that for $10, and you're just like going through because they've
Wow.
been left there for so long. But you look at some people leave their pill bags there, and I'm like looking through, I'm like, what does this person have in here?
Yeah.
Not like I'm gonna take it, I'm just like curious. I'm a curious
Right.
George. That didn't end badly for him at all. But I was Googling all these like pills, and I was like, oh my God, like if you're a drug dealer, you could make bank. Like these are shit
Mm-hmm.
like that people pay
Yeah,
to get
like
knocked out.
Oxy,
Yeah.
Xanax, Ativan, you name it. Yep. I'm not surprised in any way. So you used to work in a hotel?
For a good portion of my time, let me tell you, if you ever want
Yeah.
a good story, just talk to someone who's worked in the hotel business for longer than a
Yeah.
year.
I have a friend who did security at Denver's Brown Palace Hotel, which is like our presidential hotel, like
Hold on.
super haunted.
Oh, that hotel hasn't been canceled yet.
No, I don't think it ever will be. I mean, friggin' Reagan stayed there and Reagan hasn't been canceled. So he should have
Brown
been top of the
Palace
cancel
is
list.
pushing it on a name.
It's good stuff. Good
Oh,
stuff. But yeah, it's the story. Like he told me that Kobe Bryant stayed there. That's the kind of caliber hotel it was, because we didn't have anything super, like that was our only 5-star hotel. And was built in like the 1800s. But Kobe Bryant stayed there, and that was after the whole rape accusation from the woman in Denver. So, as a Nuggets fan, I have a particular dislike for the Lakers because of that whole incident. But yeah, there was that rape allegation, and After that, he literally was babysat by this old woman. Anytime he came into town, there was this little old lady sitting at the door, basically not letting anyone in or out. It's like, and I thought that was funny. That was an old lady was the choice of who would be his, not really bodyguard, but his babysitter. But it makes sense because, if you have a big old bodyguard that's a guy, he could look the other way and let people in. But the old lady, she's standing her ground. There is no bribing her. I just imagine her sitting in a chair outside his door, like knitting little like baby hats or something,
Who's
or
that? Betsy Ross out
headbands for
front?
Kobe. Huh?
I said, who's that? Betsy Ross out front?
Right. Gosh, could you imagine this little lady like knitting or crocheting headbands for the entire Lakers team? That would be phenomenal. I would
I
love
think
that.
those are probably like, would you like, I mean, first of all, you mentioned the celebrity thing and then the Lakers as well, too. It does get to a point when you do become a celebrity, like you feel like you can do anything. And you see a lot of shit where it's
Mhm.
like that. Fame does not transcend those boundaries, but they get away with certain actions too.
Mhm.
But working at a hotel, like to me, that has more information and more kind of like power to it than it does, or I guess being famous. I know on the like just on the idea because you know how
Mhm.
many people probably get blackmailed that are famous that stay at a hotel that we probably don't even know about just because
Oh,
one of the employees caught
tons.
something there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking like here's the big thing when you work at a hotel is like you are going through a lot of people's personal belongings in there. So it's like very, very
Right.
tempting. You hear about people like stealing stuff all the time. Luckily, I never had that thing in me to be like, I want to take this.
Mhm.
No. But when you see a doorman, for instance, I consider that guy not only a gatekeeper, but the powerful person in the universe because he sees so much stuff. He probably sees scandals, a dude cheating on his wife or
Oh,
something like that.
100%.
It's fascinating. I'm like, that's where it's at. You have
Yeah.
literally reality television in reality. You are watching drugs. You're watching people stumble home when they're not supposed to be out. You're getting tipped so much money, not to say a single word. I'm like, you're making bank. No wonder you're
Yeah.
not like upset about standing and opening up a door until they figured out they can just do the automatic ones. And then you're
Right.
kind of
And
screwed.
they also have resources like, if you don't want to go to the concierge, because I mean, sure, their job is to get you things, even if they're not legal things, really you might want to talk to the doorman instead, because he's really not going to say anything. He doesn't care about, well, I'm sure he does care about losing his job, but he's so connected. I'm sure doorman here can translate into a doorman there. So that would make a lot of sense. That's, oh my gosh. Oh, I think it was a comedian that said, when you go into a hotel room, you know that someone the night before had sex in it, like almost guaranteed. And when you're changing those sheets, you should just assume that someone had sex in them. And it's like, even if you go somewhere with your spouse or significant other and, you have sex maybe a couple times a month, that would be really sad. But it will say that if you go to a hotel, you are having sex in that bed. I don't know what it is about hotels, but that's just, I feel like something they
That's
bring
you're
out in
quoting
people.
Tom Segura.
Is it? Am I?
Yeah,
Okay.
because Tom Segura said when you walk into a hotel room, the first thing that goes in your mind is like, I'm going to not only disrespect you who's cleaning it, but also I'm going to disrespect this room.
There you go. See, but he's so right. He's so right. Or like the need to make out in elevators when you well, okay, maybe that's just me. When you start like a new relationship, you're like, doors closed, let's make out. I don't know. Maybe
Not
that's
when
just
other
me.
people are in it, though, right?
No, 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 no. I mean, I
I'm just
you
picturing
know.
little Timmy with a balloon like, Jesus.
Wait, who brings a balloon in an elevator?
You've never brought a balloon in an elevator?
I've no,
I've done
no.
that
I've
so many. I mean, I worked at a hotel, so we get like
oh,
bachelorette
okay.
parties where like you'd have dick balloons and stuff like that. So I would be pulling them down from the room and just letting them go outside. And people are like, hey, that's looking bad on our business. I'm like, it's flying dicks, man. I just needed to say that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it was there. I had to take the shot. And he's like, you're fired. I'm like, all right, right on.
Yeah, you're like, I don't give a flying fuck, and there's, a floating dick. Like, more do you want from me? That's all I could give you guys today was a floating dick. I'm sorry.
You, you literally can't have power over someone when there's literally a dick flying over their head. I'm just saying, like your supervisor authority goes right out the window.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. We started out strong here. Yeah, sex in hotels, dick balloons, Kobe Bryant being babysat. Like, this is by an old woman. This is good stuff. This is gold.
I'm just because I'm like wondering, like, what's better of obviously having money and having fame and all these types of things, but it's like it's just right now it's not seeming like the best time to have all that type of stuff. And I'd rather have a sense of like worth within myself rather than having a
Mhm.
worth with a bunch of people who don't even really truly know me, I would say. You
Yeah,
know what I
and
mean?
would love to see you fall as well. I thought about that, and this came up when I was living in the UK, and uh gosh, one of the royals had just gotten married, or one of them had been born or something. It's Kate Middleton. So we're not, I don't even want to discuss the Meghan Markle stuff, but it's Kate Middleton when she was engaged to be married. And all of the press and how just picked apart she was in every single way. It was like down, from what outfit she was wearing to like the little mole on her cheek. I don't even know if there is one, but yeah, that's the kind of spotlight that these people have. They are never alone. They are just scrutinized to the nth degree. I'm like, I would hate that. If that's what fame means, absolutely not. Like, I'd rather just be completely average and normal and do my own thing and have my own life. And like, that's why I like living in cities. I like the anonymity of it. I like going anywhere and no one knows me. I don't know why that is. I'm pretty introverted, but not like hermit introverted. But I like the anonymity because I can observe and watch and just stand back and take everything in. Whereas if you're famous, there's nothing. You just go from plane to hotel to limo to house to whatever. You are not able to exist in the real world.
It's kind of interesting you say that because I was listening to Joe Rogan and he was mentioning the first time he saw Robin Williams, he
Hmm.
was signing autographs like Joe Rogan was, and then some old man comes up and says, "I really like your comedy." He has like his head down and stuff like that. He's like,
Hmm.
"Thanks, man." Signs him something. He goes, "Wait a minute, are you Robin Williams?" And he didn't say a single word. Nobody knew that this small man was Robin Williams. Nobody even got his
Wow.
autograph or anything. He was just going by, hat on his face, glasses on, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. Not like the one with the mustache, but just, I mean, is it
Right.
you mentioned Meghan Markle. Is that the one from the Oprah Winfrey interview?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
I didn't know her name, and people are probably gonna be like, "How do you not know?" I'm like, "I just know what happened, like the whole thing." There's so much
Yeah.
shit out there. Like there's over 1.5 million people doing podcasts. There's so much going on.
Wow.
I'm just another one of those pieces of poop that's floating in the sewage drain. But it's like it's like you're in the Shawshank Redemption swimming through shit. There's so much of it that you're insaturated with it all that the fact that people can stay on
Yeah.
top of it 24/7. I'm like, you hear so many podcasts talking about news and so many people. I'm like, might
Mm.
quote something if someone brings it up or something like that, but oh my God, there's so much. I'm like,
So
my
much.
brain's gonna explode.
Yeah, I feel it's overwhelming, and I think that that's a big issue with people's mental health today. It's a big part of it. How do we sift through it? I mean, back in the day, music being an example here, on the radio, it was curated for us. You couldn't go to Spotify or Apple Music and choose your favorite like super local industrial slash emo or whatever. You couldn't find your niche. You liked what was on the radio, or you had to go find it live or create your own, but there was not the same kind of diversity and amount of music that there is now. And it's beautiful because it's given a platform to people who would otherwise never make it even close to the radio, or selling out shows or touring or anything. But it also makes it, you get a lot of noise too, and you get a lot of BS. And whether that's podcasts or music or art or TV, it's just so overwhelming. And that's, I think, why we turn to things like podcasts, be like, okay, well, I know that they watch movies and they review them and they talk about them. I know they're really into the Marvel movies. Okay, I'll trust what they're saying. And that's, I think we have to have things curated for us. Otherwise, our heads explode. Like, I feel so disconnected from the world because I don't own a TV. I haven't owned a TV since 2013, I think. Yeah, I don't own a TV. If I watch TV, it's going to be on my laptop. And I maybe watch Hulu, and I bought the ad-free version recently, or I watch Netflix, but I don't watch anything that has commercials. And people are like, yeah, did you see the commercial or the new thing that's out? I'm like, what was the last commercial I watched? It was like 5 years ago. So I feel really disconnected about like what's hip and new and going on and what the new trends are. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
I didn't even know LGBTQ plus. I didn't know there was that now. I thought it was just LGBTQT. And then I
Yeah.
had my buddy on, and he was like, "I'm gay, and I
Mhm.
can't even catch up." And he just started
Yeah.
going. I was like, "Yeah, I'm so out of it now. Like, I'm at this point. I'm like, I just want to focus on making sure that I can remember to breathe. Like
Right.
like when you get
Yeah.
too high or something, you got to remember that. Make sure I'm not chewing too loud when I'm in public, so people don't look at me like you
Right.
damn animal. That type of thing.
Yeah.
But man, it's a lot out there. I'm just like, I mean, guess
Is.
it's good, but then it gets like they're all kind of structured the same though. It's like Call of
Mhm.
Duty. Once you kind of play one, you kind of know what they're all really kind of about. Maybe a different war,
Right.
maybe set in a different time. But you
Mhm.
see podcasts that are about movies, but then they just change one little thing about it and do it in their own unique way, which is awesome. But it's like it
Right.
gives you a quality view of content. But I'm like, what's
Mhm.
the next icebreaker? Like, what's going to be after podcasting? What's going to be
Yeah.
that third wall break?
I love that with technology because I am not an entrepreneur. I think I have some good ideas, nothing tech related though.
What's an
I
idea?
did, oh God. Well, okay. So totally my copyright, trademark, patented, whatever. This is going on the air. So, just so you know, Robbie, you said it first. So I want to make uh, not really like a gag gift company type thing, but probably something you'd find at Spencer's. Do you remember Spencer's? You might be a bit young
I
in the
remember
mall.
Spencer's.
Okay, thank God. I
Nobody
was
ever
worried.
cleaned the toilet. There was always a turd in it. I was like, what the fuck?
Why are you going to the bathroom in Spencer's?
If I gotta pee, I'm peeing. Like it's gonna happen in the store. It's gonna happen in the store's bathroom. Either way.
Well, okay, never had a need to do that. I always went to like the big main mall bathroom, which is turdless, thank goodness. Um, so I wanted to make these cookies, fortune cookies, sorry, specifically fortune cookies that were called misfortune cookies and disfortune cookies. And misfortune cookies would be like, hopefully a black cat doesn't cross your path today, or be wary of ladders, just like little superstitions. And then disfortune was you're basically dissing the person. And I've been writing these, I've been saving these, but one of them the other day I wrote, yo mama's so fat, she had to pay for extra baggage fees just to get on the plane. I mean, something silly like that. A lot of these are still a work in progress, or you're so ugly, your face broke the mirror. Yeah. And then I've been getting really creative with some, I can't think of any, but that is the how this all started. And so I'm like, do I want to be a fortune cookie ninja or rogue or saboteur and work in a fortune cookie factory and like slowly just add mine to the batches, so that when people go out to Chinese restaurants and they get these cookies, one's like, you shall be prosperous within the next year. And it gives you all the lucky numbers. And that next thing you get is, hopefully there's enough air in your tires today. People be like, what the heck is going on?
You haven't
Uh,
done this? Because I've received a fortune cookie on my birthday that told me the shadows of the past best predict the pain of the future. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Whoa.
What kind of shit is that? That's not what I want when I'm eating General Tso's chicken.
No, I got one that said, come back later. Even fortune cookies need naps too. I'm like, what the crap is this? And I think that's kind of where I got the idea from, where I'm like, this is awful. Like, you can't see it, but like I had a whole bunch of fortune cookie fortunes behind me. I keep most of them. And I've made some very important life decisions based on fortune cookies. So there's this place out in Denver. I used to go to. It's called Szechuan. It's in Lakewood, Colorado. Highly recommend it. Best Chinese food I've ever had at an American restaurant. And they American Chinese restaurant, I should say. And I was going through a divorce and I was living with my parents. I'm like 26 years old back in my parents' house. Never thought that would happen to me. I'm like, I need to get out. I can't do this. It's been a month.
Wait, 26?
I was 26 when I was going through this.
When was this?
2013, last time I owned a TV.
Do
I
you
don't know if they're
do you moisturize? How old are you?
I'm 33.
Holy shit. Okay. I definitely didn't think you were 33. Okay. Good
Well,
on you.
thank you.
Good on
I
you.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'll take it. Yeah, I moisturize. I'm genetically blessed. What can I say? I was born like this. So I'm sitting there with my buddy, old high school friend, and I'm telling about everything. I'm like, yeah, I need a new place. He's like, yeah, I kind of need to move too. Should we be roommates? I'm like, yeah, I'll think about it, see if it makes sense. And in that fortune cookie, it said something like, um, there's like no time to hesitate, or now is the time to make rash decisions. And I looked at him and I'm like, yeah, let's get an apartment together. And we did. And it was the best apartment I ever had. I loved it. It was such a good year in that place. So I had a couple of those, like when I decided to go to grad school, same year, same restaurant. And I opened the fortune, and it basically said, take this step. You have a big decision to make, move forward with it. I'm like, I should just make all big decisions based on fortune cookies. So I was a bit lost a couple months ago. It's like, where's my life taking me? Do I want to stay in Nashville? Do I want to go to Seattle? Do I want to get a coding job, or do I want to stay where I'm at? That sort of thing. I'm like, I'm going to order Chinese food. I'm going to do it. I don't want Chinese food, but I need some direction here. And then I got some bullshit about like, chin up. Like, what does that mean? Chin up? Like, just what? Where do I go with this? So I guess I have to go back to Colorado and go to my one place to get any sort of fortune cookie guidance. But yeah, I feel like decisions, big life decisions made on something as arbitrary as fortune cookies, it worked out for me. So, try it sometime and let me know how it goes
I
for
have
you.
2 questions. One, it's about your company. You should call it "Fuck Your Fortune," and I think you should blur out the last 3 letters in "fuck,"
Uh-huh.
so it's just F and then asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. So then you can actually sell it on like packaging and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought my superstitions were weird. I only have one really crazy superstition, which I don't think
Mm-hmm.
is crazy, but people think is insane.
What is it?
I don't think a plane will crash if there's a baby on it.
I like the optimism. I appreciate that.
I'm just like, God can't take something so innocent and so new.
There you go.
Everyone else on the plane, I'm like, you're fucking going to hell. Because like
Right.
everyone is like, just like when you get past the age of like 15, I think when internet porn hits your phone, or internet porn first gets introduced, like as soon as you soil yourself with the sin of masturbation, you are immediately just a different person. You're not pure anymore. To me, you're just like a corrupted, pixelated soul. So I'm like, I'm deep in it too. I don't give a shit. I'll condemn myself. But at the same time, when I see a baby, I'm like, this thing has no cares, no worries, nothing in the world. So
Yep.
I'm like, that is pureness. And then everything else is just the 4 horsemen got let in when we figured out what Playboy was or Playgirl was or whatever.
I'm surprised you even remember those, except as like iconic things.
Hail to the
So
Hefner, bro.
thank you. He's amazing, and rest in peace.
He did amazing things in his career. Everybody
He
just
did.
remembers him for porn, but nobody remembers he rebuilt the Hollywood sign twice. The H in the Hollywood, it fell down twice. I think in 2002 and then in like 20, just recently too, in like
What?
2017 or something like that.
Well, I mean, I feel like he felt obligated because Hollywood had given him so much, and it's the H. So he's like, H Hefner, like this is my legacy. When they see that H, they will remember Hefner. No, we look
Didn't
at
give a shit
Playboy
about
though.
the homeless population though. They start with an H. He just said, fuck it.
You're like, Hefner, we really need to like refocus on these priorities. But no, I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
See, we're
So
educational.
yeah, you're full of those fun facts. I have a few of those tucked up my sleeve as well on occasion. I love when I say I know a bunch of fun facts, and people are like, well, what is one of them? And I'm like, I don't know. They just come up organically. Like I can't pull one. It's like telling a comedian, oh, you're a comedian, tell me a joke. It's
Yeah.
like, it doesn't
I was
really
just
work
going to
like
use that
that.
example too. I'm like, how
Yeah.
many people like I had, I'm not even gonna, I've said it too many times. A dude rejected doing my podcast because he saw a tweet I put up about a ball gag and he was like, it's funny, but not professional. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not a professional guy.
Right.
I'm not a professional comic either. I'm a professional jackass with a microphone. That's what we like to say.
There
But
you go.
it's interesting too, because like I feel like it's way easier to definitely tweet a joke rather than be able to get up on stage or be able to even say one in a chat.
Yes.
Like I'm not a comedian at all. I just can maybe say something that might be a little bit funny, but I wouldn't be able to craft it out into a joke.
Sure.
It's just a different process of things too. I like to be able to have like I'm gifted with the ability to be able just to talk and see where that thing goes, if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
But then there's people out there that are very talented where they'll sit there, think about a situation, they'll be able to craft bit
Mhm.
after bit after bit after bit. And I just
Yeah.
think that's a whole different horse.
It really is. And I've been trying, like, this has been a process for a while, but with being sober and having more clarity and time to think and stuff, I'll come up with these ideas about like standing in line at the grocery store at the self-checkout. I have a whole bit about it. And I write all these things down. I type them out in my phone as they come, and then, they start fleshing out. And as I've been reading through these bits that I come up with, they're just a few minutes, I start seeing like threads and things that connect them all. Lately it's anxiety. So I'm like, oh, maybe I need to talk to someone about that. But I'm like, I could have a whole show that's just about anxiety or addiction or anxiety around addiction. It doesn't sound funny, but I'm like, a lot of comedians talk about, being like alcoholics or addicts and being in recovery. And I love watching their journeys of, comedians drinking like 5 or 6 beers in a show. And then you see them drinking water later and making fun of their addiction and their journey, or, making light of it and saying, look, this really sucked, but this is where I am now, and let's all joke about it and laugh about it. Because I always say, if you're not laughing, you're crying. A lot of my patients, I say that too. But
words are just funny to me. The fact that if someone says I'm an addict, you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And it's immediately like a hurt bird. And then they go, well, I'm a sex addict. And then it's just seen as like a fucking sex addict. It like get tossed out the window. I'm just like, technically it's still the same thing. A lot of people can't fucking help that. But I don't see that the word addict to me has changed so much, just on the concept of like, I listened to a podcast with Dr. Carl Hunt, I think his name is, said how it's kind of like bullshit. It's really solving a problem that's there, like you're using it to kind of mask, which I think in some cases for sure is true. But addiction to me, it's just I still see them as a person. That's the hardest thing for a lot of people to do. They look at them like they need to be treated with kids gloves, and I'm like, no, they're just a person that went through some bad shit. You could happen at any time in your life.
It can, to anyone. And so to preface that, I work, I don't know, I don't think we got around to it last time we spoke, but I work as an admissions case manager, basically, for a very big addictions company. I'll leave them out of this, but they're amazing. So just a PSA, if anyone is struggling with addiction that's listening, get in touch with Robbie. He'll get you in touch with me. I'd love to help you out and get you.
Don't put my DMs out there. You're nuts. I got Scientologists messaging me.
Yes. Okay. Well, yeah.
I'm kidding. I'll connect them. It's okay.
Oh, I want to talk to Scientologists, but anyway.
I got flat earthers, Scientologists. What do you want? We are in store and everything's in stock.
Okay. Well, you can now be a part of the addiction recovery community. But basically my job is to help people get into rehab, inpatient, outpatient, you name it. But we're not really 12 steppers. Like they're kind of in there sprinkled in because, it's just kind of a part of recovery, whether it's, AA, NA, smart recovery. It's good to have a view of it, but it's dual diagnosis or co-occurring disorders. I know you're super into mental health, but like
I went to school for chemical dependency, and then I went to psychology.
So there you go. So that's exactly what we do. And understanding that addiction is a symptom of those underlying issues of depression, anxiety, trauma, OCD, literally just listed all of my mental health diagnoses. Whether it's bipolar disorder, we're self-medicating. I didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, I think being an alcoholic sounds like a lot of fun. Nobody says that. And you're right, the stigma around addiction and being an addict is changing a lot, even in the last few years. People are seeing, oh wait, it's not a moral failure. That's it. It's not a moral failure. It's not that they're a weak person, but the brain chemistry, like breaking it down for people like this, where addiction happens. So you have your frontal lobe, which is intellect, how we're speaking, how we connect with other people, our logic, rationale. And then our midbrain is our animal brain, which is our survival instincts, where our dopamine takes place. And so when you eat food, your dopamine goes up and your brain says, hey, that's good. Keep doing that. You'll survive. And then the back of our brain is controlling our heartbeat, digestion, all the stuff we have no control over for the most part. And when you take in an artificial substance, whether it's cigarettes, alcohol, sugar, heroin, meth, whatever it is, your dopamine gets artificially raised. And you do that enough. And when you start saying, well, there's a lot of jokes around this, or a lot of people do it, or it's shown in media. I've had a really bad week. I'm going to go home and have a glass of wine, or I'm going to go home and have a bottle of wine.
Glass of Pinot Noir is what they say.
Right. I'm going to go put in my Chardonnay and put some ice cubes in it and go sit outside. So It's for the 40-year-old white women in the suburbs. So so yeah, and that starts to become a survival thing. So one day you say, oh, I've had a hard day, and your brain goes, go have a glass of wine. And then suddenly it's okay, I lost a friend, in a car crash. I'm gonna go have a bottle of wine. And then so every single thing, the way you survive it, you turn to alcohol instead of all these other coping mechanisms you might have had, going to the gym, taking a walk, reaching out to a friend, watching a movie, whatever it is, it becomes alcohol, or your preferred substance. And I describe it as, it's like being stranded on a deserted desert island. You have no fresh water, no land in sight, you're alone, like Castaway ain't happening. You've seen the movie. Sorry, not going to work for you this time. And the only thing you have to drink is salt water. And especially you living by the beach, you drink salt water and you have nothing else, you will die, and you'll die faster. But you drink it anyway because your survival instincts are so strong, and they say you have to drink that water. And I remember going home one night, and I'm like, okay, it's after work. I'm not going to drink. I need to take it a little easy. I've been going a bit too hard, waking up hungover every day. And then all of a sudden, I'm driving to the grocery store, and I'm like, wait a minute, Karla, front of my brain screaming, Karla, what are you doing? You're not drinking tonight, but you're driving anyway. You're driving. And it's like you're on autopilot. Like you can't fight it. Next thing you know, you're walking down the wine aisle or beer aisle, or, picking up your fifth of vodka, whatever it is. And you're still kicking and screaming inside your head. And everyone I work with, specifically alcohol, that I help, they say the exact same thing. They're like, oh, you nailed it right on the head. Like, I cannot stop myself, physically cannot stop myself, no matter how much I want to. And that's how powerful it is, that you are yelling and kicking and screaming at your own brain, and you still can't stop it. So addiction is powerful. I mean, people are like, well, it's ruining their lives. Can they keep doing this? I'm like, yeah, it's ruining their lives. Do you think they want to keep doing this? Like, it's just taking a step back and saying, this is how powerful this is. And that's why, the industry is changing so much to be about mental health. Like, you address the anxiety, you address the depression or bipolar disorder. You give people healthy coping mechanisms, and like cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy are very effective for addiction treatment. And the addiction is a lot more manageable. It never goes away ever. It's kind of like diabetes or asthma. You're going to have that for life. You got to maintain it. And it's always there. So you kind of got to keep an eye on it. And relapses, 5% of people stay sober long term. I don't know if you knew that. So because people call and they're like, well, what's the guarantee of my loved one staying sober? I'm like, sobriety doesn't come with any warranty or lifetime guarantee. Sorry. It's just not the way it works. Most people relapse, and I have to be very real with people. I'm like, yeah, you're going to pay a lot of money for this, or your insurance is going to pay a lot of money. I can't provide you with any guarantee. That's on your loved one to stay sober. It's on them to do the work and continue the care after rehab.
Yeah,
That's up to
see,
them.
that's where I agree with Carl Hunt, is that rehabs are kind of bullshit in a way. Funny thing is about rehabs is a lot of the people that do get out of rehab end up returning back to rehab because they're treating,
Hmm.
like, let's say, a heroin addiction. You can get the person off heroin, but if you don't fix the core issue of what's going on in their life that is
Yeah,
making them turn to heroin to keep using the drug, then they're just going to turn to another substance and go down there
exactly.
too. A person who's doing heroin gets off heroin, goes home, and their house is still burned down. Their house is still burned down. There's nothing there
Hmm.
that's been fixed. So you're not
Yeah.
detecting the catalyst. And this is why I love the human brain so much, which is like, if you look at psychology, there's thousands of fields that go into psychology when it's talking about, and
Hmm.
if you just want to focus on environmental influences, behavioral influence, one aeronautic, psycho, anything you want to talk about when it comes to, like, maybe if you just want to focus on schizophrenia. That's why I was like, I don't know if I want to be a psychologist, because I like learning all these. I don't want to have to be a master in one field with a minor in
Right.
another field. I want to dip my toes in every single one of them
Yeah.
because each one is so fascinating. Now, the one I did get stuck to, besides chemical dependency, was schizophrenia, because that one had me the most challenged, where I was trying to put myself in their perspective of things. And I eventually
Hmm.
did, in my life, have a very, very caring figure that was my buddy's mom.
Hmm.
Um, she ended up shooting herself. Uh, which was because of schizophrenia, because she
Mhm.
thought that there was someone outside her door coming to kill her, and she thought there was no escape, and then took
Ugh,
her own life. It was a very, very sad, and I miss that my buddy dearly. We don't really talk anymore,
yeah.
but it was just a few years ago.
Mhm.
It's very, very hard when someone normal who doesn't understand the capacity of mental health hears that. They think like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is wrong with that
Mhm.
person? It's like, you got to see it. I see it every time I see a headline and someone's going on a schizophrenic break. When I
Mhm.
see a school shooter or something like that, not only do I care for the people that are being hurt, but I look at like what's
Mhm.
going on in that person's life that turned this person to
Right.
get to that stage.
Mhm.
And people will go, well, like, then you don't have empathy for the people. That person's a psychopath. I'm like, shouldn't you be able to try
Yeah.
and understand the psychopath a little bit?
Yes.
The weird part about the brain is you never know what can make it tick, what can make it think, what can make it do so many different stuffs.
Right.
And right now, everyone's acting the way people want, that you think they want you to act, rather
Mhm.
than being themselves. It's like I'm walking around in a sea of fucking fake people. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
when you ask how my day's going, do you give a shit? Do you really
No.
give a shit? Or are you just saying it for filler words? And that's the probably the
Right.
biggest question, the easiest one that can assemble what's going on into your own head when you start looking at the fact of like depression. Just because you don't
Mhm.
have it now and you might be 40, you might be 50, doesn't mean it can never hit you. It's like being the
Yeah.
mailbox when a kid's coming by on a truck with a bat ready to swing and hit for you. It can hit you
Ugh,
at any
yeah.
time in your life.
I
And this
like
is
that. That's a good
it
analogy.
it's very, very important to focus in on a lot of these factors, which is why I like asking people about their dreams, asking people about their thoughts, asking people about their
Mhm.
perspective on things. Because when you can step literally in that person's mindset, in their shoes, you can understand where they're coming from, and you realize that
Sure.
everything that led
Mm.
up to them thinking that way. And you're not, that doesn't, that sounds like it's coming from like I'm in a better perspective position. It's not. It's just coming from an understanding one of like, oh
Mhm.
shit, I see why you see it now. It's like kind of
Yeah.
like two sides of an argument. Sometimes that argument's in their own head, and that's
Yeah.
really fucking difficult.
Yes, and that's I mean, and that's what I like what we do so much because we are a bit of pioneers in the field. That's why I'm saying like we don't really touch the 12 steps. It is therapy after therapy after therapy, which is whether it's art therapy or music therapy or EMDR, I movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is really key for severe PTSD. You know, we treat veterans. We're just so mental health heavy. And when it comes to traditional rehabs, especially state funded ones, unfortunately, like their success rate of long term sobriety is 17 to 19%. A lot of that is because people who go to state rehabs don't want to be there, they're court ordered. But then, you know, and there are people that really want to stay sober that can't get there, don't have insurance money, whatever, and they go because they want to be there. But it's so just it's like being in AA or NA meetings. I don't know if you've ever been to one, but you know, you talk about a step and you share if you want, and it's led by a peer, which is great. It's free. But if you're doing that 8 hours a day, the 12 steps, sure, it's a really good way to work through things, but it doesn't really address mental health. It addresses the things around you a lot of times, and people are gonna like totally, I'm sure, bash you on your podcast for me being an anti 12 stepper, and I'm not. The 12 steps are beautiful. They're wonderful. I think everybody should work them, whether you have an addiction or not, because it really is about processing how you relate to the world and taking responsibility for yourself. That's a big thing. But yeah, the rehab world is scary. There's been a lot of new regulations around it because it can be a scam. I mean, there's places that'll charge you 40 grand for the month. And literally there's like metal folding chairs and a TV, and maybe you get an hour of counseling a day. There's real scams like they're out there like that. It's getting better again, but it still happens. It's a money making industry. And so I'm not gonna lie, we're a private company. They want to make money. I'm not there for that. Like I am there because I've been on the other side of that phone, so to speak. I never went to rehab, but I know that if I got back to the point I was, my ass is going to rehab and probably to one of our places because I love the people. You know, they're so compassionate and caring. I sent my roommate to rehab and
Look at
with
the
one of us. So
overgeneralization of people that when they say you went to a rehab and those rehabs are all like money schemes, and then their
Mm-hmm.
thought is you're an idiot for going and paying for some same kind of
Yep.
way I think of somebody that picks up a motivation book. For me, motivation, I'm like, I don't need that, but I understand the concept of people picking up because you are literally at a
Mm-hmm.
point where you're going to pay to read something that hopefully will have some type of effect onto
Yeah.
your life to make it better
Positively. Yeah.
situation that is now. So I might joke around and dismiss them, but they do have a meaning in at least the world
Yes,
today in
they
people's
they have a
minds.
purpose and a
Yeah.
place. Some people don't need it, and some people you haven't found the right one. Some people need all experiential, and that's like you said, everybody's so individual. And like the reason that I drink is totally different than the person next to me, and the reason they drink. The commonality is we both drink to self medicate, and the important thing is why are we self medicating?
The best advice
So yeah,
I've heard, like
uh huh,
this is the example of the 12 steps, is
hmm
that the 12 steps are a template and you can take one or a couple of those steps that might fit your
hmm
scenario, but not all of them might correlate. I think that's very
right.
important. A lot of people think you need to follow them 12-step
Oh my
religiously.
gosh,
I've talked to plenty of people that say, no, I only use a couple of them and stuff like that, like the major ones,
yeah,
like don't pick another drink back up, don't do that type of
hmm
the common ones you would think. And it's just like you have to also understand that people are so different. People are so malleable. This is actually the reason why, like,
hmm
later after we get done recording, I have a few cult leaders that are coming on to my podcast, like actual
Yes.
people that have left that whole situation.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's trying to understand that we're all trying to find where we fit, and each
Mhm.
person is going to have their own description of what they feel like fits their needs for everything, which is why I'm so interested in it, because so many people be like, you did this, and want to shame a person rather than trying
Yeah.
to understand them. It's also not about acting like, they're a hurt bird either. I fucking hate that
Mhm.
more than anything when someone talks to someone with kids gloves. I'm like, just talk to them
Yeah.
like they're a fucking person, and you're going to get more
Yeah.
results. You're going to get a better understanding. People will truly never
Sure.
be open with you if you act like they're different or you're better than them.
Yeah.
It's very, very
Mhm.
complicated in the world, because I think people's minds, they want to think the worst because they're just everything we're being shown.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
hard.
and that's the thing with rehab too. People call in and they're terrified. It's more like a psych ward where it's, four concrete walls and bars on the window and they have to give up their cell phone and can't leave. And first of all, if you go to rehab and they lock you down, it's illegal. Call the cops. They were not you. It is all voluntary. There's no psych holds or anything for rehabs. You go there by your own free will. You stay there by your own free will. Most of the time these days, they're really nice accommodations, a lot of them. There's a podcast called American Rehab by NPR that is fascinating. And then there's also a movie that came out called Body Brokers. I haven't watched it. I deal with addiction so much in my work and in my daily life. I don't want to consume more media about it because I look forward to the day when I'm not working in the addiction field because it can be overwhelming. But this has been the best thing for my sobriety. I'm literally doing addiction work 40 plus hours a week. So no problem staying sober in that aspect. But there's been some really fascinating light being shown on the actual rehab world. And there was one, I won't name it, but basically you worked 40 hours a week. You work for your keep. You don't get paid for it. It goes towards room and board. And then if you're lucky, you like counselors would go wake people up at like 10, 11 at night because that was the only time they were going to get counseling. It was just heartbreaking. And that's not helping. I mean, some people believe, and this is an older generational thing, like, well, you go work and you get a regimen. And well, I quit drinking 27 years ago and I never touched a drop since. And it's a lot of these older guys that are like in their 70s or
They're not
80s.
wrong. I mean, my grandma, cigarettes went up in price and she stopped smoking cigarettes after 40 years. She was like, "Oh, fuck it. I'm not giving them any
Right.
more money." But then we call her two beer queer because she'll drink 2 Millers and then she's off to the races. Um, but she had that willpower to do so, and some other people
Yeah.
need more. It all depends, because like I look at a person's life, for instance, when they have something that they're easy to beat, and for another person it might be extremely difficult, then
hmm
that person has something in their life that's very difficult for them to beat, and that other
hmm
person is extremely good at it. You got to find, like, I think everyone has like a certain crutch and then a certain thing about them that is like, this doesn't affect me at
Yeah.
all. Everyone's
Everyone has a codependency. Everybody does, whether it's food or another person or a substance. Everybody copes with life with something in some way, even if it's not to the point of negatively affecting your life. Like you'll have something. People say, I don't. I'm like, take a good look. What do you do when you have a hard day? Um, or you have a fight with a loved one. But I wanted to go back to something you just said. Why this older generation, boomers and a little bit older, are so skeptical about rehab, like proper rehab, mental health rehab, not the traditional crap you see on the TV, is they had a different world. We have a very different world right now than what they were handed. They lived in a time where the ability to be successful, to be able to pay for college with the summer's work, you could pay for the year working at minimum wage back in the 80s. You could pay for a year of college that way. And look at the world we're handed now. The ability to move upward. We're left with a ton of debt. There's all these things that we've been handed a pile of shit. Basically, we have to deal with climate change. We have to deal with inequality, because they were just like, we're gonna do whatever we want. And so I think mental health back then was a different animal. I think there was a lot more hope than there is now. And that's just how I see it. And I tell them that straight up. I'm like, there's a lot more anxiety and depression these days than there used to be. And, you had it pretty good. You had the ability to go into a job entry level, meaning you have no experience, and work your way up. Entry level now is 5 years experience and a PhD. That's entry level. So what kind of hope does that give us to better our lives? And it's no wonder we're coping with substances. There's such a loss of hope, as especially millennials right now. Gen Y is okay. Millennials are really struggling. I feel bad for Gen Z. You guys are being handed an
I'm a
bigger pile
millennial.
of shit. Are you considered a millennial?
Yeah. I was born in
Okay.
97.
Okay. So you're like right at the very tail end of it. And I'm considered right in the middle. If you want to see a really good special, Eliza Schlesinger is one of my favorite comedians ever. She does a show called Elder Millennial. I think she was like 35 when she did it.
She's been on the podcast.
Shut up.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. Don't, Robbie, you
I've
almost
heard of
killed me
her
there.
before, but I
She's
haven't seen any
amazing.
of her work.
Watch it. It's really good. But
Had the
especially
guy
Elder
from
Millennial.
Jim Jeffries show on here, and he was like, "Yeah, I work for Jim Jeffries." I'm like, "I don't know who the fuck that is, man. I don't know
That's
who
one of
that
my
is."
other favorite comedians. Oh
I
my
think we
gosh.
talked about this last time.
Yeah,
too.
we did.
I
But
only got like 3
Eliza,
favorites, and that's it.
yeah, and you gave me a few. I still have it on a sticky note somewhere, as everybody can see the
I
sticky
love it when
notes.
you made a sticky note for our podcast recording.
I
You were like
did.
interview, and then you don't understand how I snapped in that instance. And then you sent me a
did,
message
actually.
before I could even respond. You said cross it out and put conversation. I was like,
Yeah,
all right,
I'll
cool.
even show it to the lovely, lovely people. It's not the greatest. Sorry, light. There we go. So interview with Robbie, and then I wrote in conversation, crossed it out and wrote conversation. That was actually how I wanted to start this whole thing. I love giving you a hard time about it. I know you see it as a conversation, so I wanted to start like interviewing
It's
you.
it's
just
so
to mess with your head.
it's so hard because like I literally just had it happen not even like an hour ago. A guy was like, "Can you tell me a little bit about what you mean conversation?" I just sent him the definition of conversation through Google. I was like, "That." I just tell people check out the show, and it seems rude, but it's like it's the best way I can explain it because each one is so rapidly different. Because like when you put the idea of an interview in someone's head, then it just becomes question based, and then it's like
Right.
I'm pulling teeth out, and I'm like, I like the hour to fly by like that. Like we've almost been talking for an hour. I like it to fly by quick. So
Yeah.
it's easy and it's fun and it's more engaging for the audience member that likes to sit there and listen, or engaging for if I'm not having fun, then I don't want to do it. Like that's the big thing. And it's when you get into an interview mode, it's like, oh my God, you end up hearing everybody talk about themselves for like 2 hours that goes by like 10 years, and you just want to be like, gun to the freaking roof of the mouth.
And if it's someone incredibly fascinating, then great. And I think, and I told you this last time, Robbie, you do find fascinating people. I know it's not necessarily what you're seeking, but I think you definitely get back what you put out there. There was a word for it, and I forget what it was. I heard it the other day, but just like
Sociopath.
before I got that too, no, you like when I was in the depths of my alcoholism, or substance abuse disorder, when things were really bad, when life was spiraling, I had a lot of people around me that were heavy drinkers, partiers, use substances, whatever, or just toxic people in general. And then I got sober, and I have a lot more sober people in my life. I don't go to AA. I had some really traumatic experiences going back to cults. I think that's what makes AA really bad, is that people do take it to a cult like level. That's what it's turned into
One
in a
of
lot of
us.
places. Yeah. And
One
that's
of
all you do.
us.
That's the only people you hang out with. And if you don't do it right, some people are even to the point of you can't even take Tylenol for a headache, like so
Yeah.
just nothing in your brain, in your body. And I'm like, I get why they say abstinence only in the sense of like no marijuana, because it tickles the same brain receptors that your favorite substance does. So your brain will say, hey, Robbie, that feels pretty good. But you know what you
So
really
does
like?
nicotine.
So I
Sometimes I hit
mean,
a cigar. I hit a really good Marlboro. Oh my
mm-hmm.
God, I got to shit. I got to do so much. My brain just goes down into shut. I had to study what that was because I was vaping this like
Uh-huh.
salt nick juice in my vape. And if you
Huh.
do salt nick in a regular vape like my own, a regular salt nick vape only goes up to like 30 watts or 40 watts
Mm-hmm.
because the juice is so freaking strong. It's like so pure nicotine in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing it in a vape that went to like 150. I would have it at. So I was vaping the highest nicotine content, 64 salt
Oh my
nick,
God.
and I would hit it. And I feel like I was about to like pass out. Like, when you get too drunk, blackouts
Yeah.
coming, that would
Uh-huh.
happen. But I have to go to the bathroom extremely. And I asked the guy at the vape shop, I was like, yo, when I hit this in my regular vape, like I can't drive, I can't do anything for like a minute. I just feel like I got a breath and I feel like I'm about to
Yeah.
pass out. And he goes, oh, you know what that is, right? And he goes, do you also get to like, they have to go to the bathroom? I was like, yeah, a
Mhm.
lot. Like right then, if I don't do it, it's going to happen. And he goes, yeah. So, when you die in your brain, like when you die, they say people poop themselves or release themselves. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah. He goes, you're basically shutting down your brain and your brain's experiencing symptoms of like what death would be. So now your body's
Wow.
trying to release all those things. So you're basically like killing your nerves and your brain.
Right, right.
Possibly can cause brain damage. And I'm like,
Good to know.
shit,
There's a reason I don't vape. I actually
ramp it
quit
up.
cigarettes. Actually quit cigarettes a few months ago. So it took me 2 years, or I've been sober for 2 years as of March 1st. Sober. I put big air quotes around that because I think that means very different things to very different people.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not ruining my life anymore. So that feels good. Um, but yeah, I quit 4 months ago, but I looked into it, like caffeine. You know how there's jokes about coffee makes me poop, right? I mean, they have mugs about it.
It's a
Probably
lie.
after this we're done, I'm gonna go poop, probably. But
Really?
caffeine, nicotine,
Send a picture.
methamphetamine, I will, you better believe it. Hey, I have an Instagram called Trash Toilets of Instagram, or Trash Toilets of
Yo, you
IG.
got to post mine on there. My doctor sent it into WebMD because he was like, this is great. Because I won't go for like 60 something days. So when it comes out, it's like, I have an intestinal disease. So
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I'm like, you might want to get that looked at. But
I
anything
have
that
been for
ends with
2 years. Took John Hopkins to court and didn't get fucking shit. I won,
no,
thank God. But even the
yeah,
judge was like, I'm surprised. I'm like, fucking, I didn't even
yeah.
know I was going against them. I thought I was going against priority partners.
Oh, wow, John Hopkins, that's a beast to take on. So yeah, anything that ends in "ene" is a stimulant. And what happens, and this may be a part of why you have to go shit yourself too, is the caffeine or nicotine stimulates your digestive system. Like it's like, oh hey, I'm awake, just like you do when your brain too. It's like, oh hey, I'm awake. So when people say cigarettes relax me, that's why I keep smoking. No, no, it's the deep breathing that relaxes you. Nicotine's an upper, it keeps you going. So there's a lot of bullshit reasons of why people
It's a
quit
lot of lies
smoking.
from the nicotine industry. But
Yeah.
I think my average consumption of caffeine probably a day. Let's see, I don't know the milligrams of caffeine in a coffee, but I drink
Mm-hmm.
probably at least 2.5 pots a day, one before I go to bed too. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
my energy drink content has cut way down. I used to do like 30 rock stars a day. Now I'm at like maybe one or two. I have
How are you
caffeine doesn't hit
alive?
me. Caffeine doesn't hit me. Like I used to do before I got into my jet ski
Mm-hmm.
accident when I was doing jet skis. I was doing four 32-ounce Red Bulls, the really tall ones, on my way to work with a bag of Skittles. I was 17. But then like
Oh yeah. I
my
mean,
brother's
okay.
girlfriend's like, yo, you're not going to make it to 26. We're going to cut this out right here. So then I like knocked it back. But like my
Yeah.
pre-workout usually is like 4 bangs mixed up into one. And then I
Hey, at least
do
there's no sugar.
10 scoops of pre-workout and I don't feel anything. My veins get bigger though, but that's about it. ADHD,
That's
just no caffeine's nothing.
Oh, okay. So if you're ADHD, you don't count in this because it does the opposite for
What?
you. Well, and I'll explain. I'll explain. So I get a lot of people calling in and they're like, I'm addicted. Meth is probably one of the main calls I get. It actually so
Meth?
nicotine and alcohol raises your dopamine 100%. Um, heroin about 600%, excuse me, and
Jesus.
methamphetamine 6,000%, which is why it is so hard to get off of. But I talk to people all the time and I'm asking them about their mental health. That's part of the admissions process. And they're like, yeah, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And I'm like, does meth calm you down? They're like, yeah, it helps me focus. Like without it, I can't function because they're
That's
not
me
on
and
proper
Adderall.
medications. Exactly, exactly. So there is a place for, excuse me, these drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, and there's ones that aren't technically stimulants as well. But meth, it's cheap, it's easy to find, but it's so bad for you,
We were
so
talking
bad for
about
you.
pills earlier.
Uh huh.
So I never got a prescription for Adderall. My
Uh huh.
parents were like, no, we don't want him to be like losing his hair and stuff like that. So no, thank you.
I haven't heard those side effects, but I mean, not to say they don't exist,
That
but
was when I
that's
was a
wild.
kid. So they were like, I've heard
Um,
terrible things about
yeah.
this, going whatever, all these horrible reactions that happen when you take Adderall or some type of
Mm-hmm.
medication for it. So I never took it. So I just kind of learned to kind of balance it out and work with
Mm-hmm.
it, like be able to manage it a little bit.
Sure.
Makes me productive as hell.
Yeah.
But I remember taking Adderall once and it was so this goes to the pill thing. You ever try a random pill? So my buddy opens up a thing of Mentos and he's got like the little, like the old school Altoids tins. That's what it is, the Altoids tins.
Wow.
And he's
Okay.
like, I put a bunch of Adderall in here with these mints. So you
Mm-hmm.
take one and then it's a surprise. And you can kind of tell when you put it in your mouth, you're like, okay, that's a freaking mint.
Right.
But I took one and then it was an Adderall. And I just remember sitting we went to a Cracker Barrel because we were leaving a concert. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
sitting on those rocking chairs out front. Didn't get
Yeah.
any food. I just lost my hunger. But I remember
Right.
everything was so like, I'm here right now. And I literally could swear I was creaking and I could match it with the wind chimes, with the birds chirping, with a bunch of stuff. And I just
Wow.
found the sound of the universe. And they're like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm freaking great right now. Like
Right.
I can I don't have thoughts going on. That's what I didn't like was I couldn't think, which
Mm-hmm.
if you have depression like myself, it is good and bad. But I feel like you need to also confront what those things are, or they're never going to go away and you can take a pill for the rest of
Sure.
your life. But being mindless, being a zombie just that
Yeah.
doesn't correlate well with me.
And there's some things that just cannot be treated with medication. Borderline personality disorder being one of them. You cannot treat it with medication. Same with OCD. But they're starting to find that ADHD. So I may be misdiagnosed. I need to do a much more in-depth
ADD
test
is like
battery
not
of.
being able to focus. ADHD is like the same thing with ADD, it just has hyper activity on top of it. So
Right, right. So that inability to focus.
yeah.
So they're saying though that OCD and ADD or ADHD, there's a lot of similar symptoms, and people are getting misdiagnosed with one or the other, and they present very similarly. So I got on a medication that was a very, very mild stimulant, and I discovered when I ran out that I'm like, wow, I'm a lot less focused, and that maybe I have OCD with ADHD
I,
tendencies or vice versa.
I think you might just have OCD because ADHD, like I think where they're saying it's similar, there's a difference you can tell though, is all about the mannerisms of the person. If a person is like fixing a bunch of stuff really sporadically, that's
Mhm.
not ADHD, that's OCD because they feel the need that everything's out of place. So it's nice to keep things organized.
Right,
When you
right.
have ADHD, that's a little bit different because ADHD is more on the concept of like, I just anything is like 1 minute this
Yeah,
and then it's a complete 10-minute or 20-minute like shutdown where you're like I can sleep and then it just kicks right back up, like you'll have
right.
energy 1 minute, gone the next, then back again, like it just revamps like a battery just being
Mhm.
replaced. OCD is more like I sense it because I have people in my family that have OCD, and then I also
Mhm.
know people when I go to my gym that have a gym addiction. When they have the OCD to work out, the thing like I need to work out right now, you're stopping me from
Mhm.
working out, and they just start to become really what looks like uncomfortable. where
Yeah.
it's like, what is wrong with you? I said, I was turning it. It's like, no, it's got to work in this process. Got to work in this process. I'm like, that's OCD, because like I'll be at work and someone at my work will just come in, trash everything. Like, when they're setting up their stuff or when they're doing whatever, I keep
Right.
every drawer open looking for something. I'll go behind them and shut everything and fix
Right.
everything, make everything organized. I'm like, I don't have OCD when it comes to that. It's just, if you make the shit organized, it's like making your bed in the morning. It makes the whole damn
Right.
place look good.
Just and feel good. It's that energy and that flow and a mindset too. And here's where ADHD and OCD can present really similarly. Like you were talking about that need for things to be in order. Now, people have this preconceived notion from media that OCD means your place is spotless, everything has to be in line exactly. That there's just, you have to turn the lights on and off 3 times. I mean, things like that. That's couldn't be further from the truth. Like my place is untidy. But like if I get into what I call these cleaning modes where I will for 10 hours, I'll be doing the random stuff that I'm like, I should have cleaned the cobwebs off the ceiling, a month ago, but now I'm doing it. And then I'm also fixing the doorknob that's loose. And I will do that throughout the house for hours, just little odds and ends.
I
And
used to do
that's
that
where
with my,
OCD comes in.
I used to have my dog. I had 2 little
Mhm.
dogs, and one was getting old. Like I think she lived at
Mhm.
like 14. So I would always flick the light switch up and down, up and down, up and down before I
Mhm.
left the house. Make sure she stay alive while I was at school or something like that.
Right.
Something you build up in your head because it is a part of your thoughts and your fears. Where it's
Yeah,
like I
but it's almost a
remember,
superstition
yeah,
rather than an OCD.
I just did it like maybe a couple of months ago. I started flicking the light switch up and down, like, and I was saying my dog's name. I
Mhm.
was like, wait a minute, my dog's fucking dead. Why am I doing this? And it's like some
Yeah,
simple stuff like that. Like I have
build
a gym
muscle.
addiction, but it's gotten way easier on me because I think
Yeah.
podcasting is now taking over that aspect of it. But like I used to be like, no, my workout, my workout. I do my workouts very early in the morning, and I can't talk
Mhm.
to anyone until that is complete. Like no podcasts
Fair.
around my workout. But the feeling that if I'm working out and I have one coming up, I will cut it a little bit early and head home, on the
Mhm.
aspect of like, I don't feel like I need to be there 2.5 hours or this and this and this and this. And then I completely go overboard. If I, let's say, I have a day off tomorrow, I'll probably
Right.
work out in the morning and then do 4 hours elliptical, but that's fine.
Huh. You're a braver person than I. I just
Hulu.
started going to the I just started going to the gym because my kickboxing gym closed down permanently. Womp womp. And I like solo sports, team sports give me anxiety.
Team
Because
sports give you
OC
anxiety.
100% because I don't want to be a failure for the team. I'm not super like
Oh
coordinated or
my
athletic
God. You
anyway.
got to get over that one.
Oh dear Lord, no! It's
Come
never.
on.
Ever
Really?
since I was a kid, like 4 years old, quit soccer, joined color guard at one point, quit, did like some, unofficial. Like I did kickball with work a few years ago, like a social league. Miserable. I hated it. I became team mom. I brought stuff. I was coach. I was creating the lineup. Like so much. I've quit every team sport, but I like sports where I can be solo and barefoot apparently. So karate, yoga, kickboxing. I mean, if it's barefoot and I do it solo, I'm great. So my gym closed down. So I started going to the gym. I got a membership and I enjoy it. I used to be bored by it, but I'll listen to some really good music. But I realized I started getting a routine. Rowing machine, love a rowing machine, arms, abs, legs, back to rowing machine. And I have a pretty specific order in what I do. I mix it up a little bit because you do need that the the
Today
what I
was my
mean.
back day.
So see, I like the version where you're like keeping your body confused, where it's like, wait a minute, I just did arms, now we're doing legs.
Well, I don't set it
And
for like a Thursday is going to be back day. Mine
right.
always, I work out every day, so I don't
Mhm.
take a rest period. So then when I do work out, my days are always changing. So I'm never getting the same day, same routine. But the one thing I
Right.
always do, at least before coronavirus, I was doing extremely was I'd always save an hour just for abs. So I would do at
Mm-hmm.
least 1,000 hanging leg raises. And then I always try and hit 800 per weight that I add on top of it. So about 10 sets of different weight, but 800 reps
Dear
of
Lord.
ab pull downs. I still do the 800. Like I made it to the bottom of the stack, I think 2 days ago, which is
Hmm.
like 97 pounds, I think, and you're pulling down.
Yeah.
Um, and then my nose started bleeding, and I was like, maybe I should stop because
Maybe I
I'm
should chill.
smelling toast.
Come, CTFO, chill the fuck out. Yeah, man, I couldn't do. I don't have again the attention span. Like I would go for an hour and a half, and I would actually enjoy it, and I would take my time. Again, love the rowing machine. Was trying to get further, in less time. Like I think 1,000, no,
My ass
1,500 meters
bone
in 10 minutes.
on the seat of the rowing machine,
Uh huh.
it keeps. Nobody believes me, but when I do legs, like I'm like my ass bones will leave a print, and they're like, no way. And then I do my legs on the
Yeah.
leg press, or I do them on the rowing machine, and the
Uh-huh.
cushion of the seat, you can see I have two little circle indents where my ass bones were going. It's not that I don't have an ass. I do a bunch of ass workouts, but I can't get like size on it. Same thing,
Yeah,
my legs.
well, I can help you with that. You can borrow some of mine. I have plenty of ass to go around. But that's what squats and leg presses are for. Actually, I hate squats, but I'll do a ton of stuff on the leg press.
I
But
will not do deadlifts.
oh, dear God, no.
I did
hate
them, but I'm
those.
pretty sure that's probably what messed up my back, and that's why everyone's been thinking I
Yeah.
have an intestinal issue because my back is like feels like there's something in the left part of it that's not working
Oh,
properly. I'm like,
that
that's a
sounds
disc.
awful. That sounds awful. So,
I just want to be Ronnie Coleman,
I have no idea who that is.
Mr. Olympia 8 times. He used to be a cop, and he was like, I never got any action. I'm like, do you think it's because you were 300 pounds and 0.3% body fat? You were less than 1%.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't think it, like, if you look at pictures of him, I don't think it looks good at all. It looks
No.
like you can see the muscles, like there's no fat. It's just muscle.
Yeah. And that's addiction. I think those bodybuilders, it's 100% an addiction.
He had a documentary on Netflix you should watch about. It's like addiction.
There you go.
He was like lifting weights. He has the crutches on his arms because his body's just just atrophied so bad. And the doctor's like, if he just stops working out, it'll come back to normal.
It'll
and
be
then
great.
he's doing 85-pound dumbbell curl with the crutches on his arms. He's like, I won't stop. I'm like, you're just an excellent.
You're ruining
specimen.
your life. Yeah, you're ruining your life with this and relationships, I'm sure. I always joke that at the gym, because I would go on Friday nights. I like going at night. I like going 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. Because there's
1
no one there. Oof. Yeah, no, I'm generally like starting to go to sleep at that point. But yeah, 10 o'clock at night, no one's there. I can be on any machine I want. It's, much more socially distanced. It's a lot easier to be. And I would always see the same group of gym rats every single night I was there when I would go 2 or 3 to 4 times a week. And I would joke that there's the only people you'll see at 10 o'clock at the gym on a Friday night was 1, if you're a gym rat. Okay, obvious. 2, you're more elderly and you just kind of want to take your time and mosey about. 3, if you're very self-conscious about working out. So a lot of people who are heavier, who don't have any body confidence, you see a lot of people like that there. I just want to go and like cheer them on, be like, you got this, keep it up, you can do it. And then addicts, because we don't want to be out on a Friday night doing anything. And I remember on March 1st, my 2-year sober day, I went to the gym. People would normally go out and celebrate something like that with a couple of drinks. Well, what am I going to do? I went to the gym and rode like 1,500 meters in 10 minutes, I think was what I did, which was my personal best. Or was it 1,000 meters in 5 minutes? I don't know. I took a picture and whatever. But I was like, what do you do when you get 2 years sobriety? You go to the gym and fucking kill it. Just what a mindset it is when it comes to with the mental health and sobriety and just how you cope with things in new and different ways. And I feel like, and I wanted to ask you about this. So I feel like getting diagnosed, really understanding, putting a name to what's going on in your head can be really helpful, but I think it can also be really detrimental. Like finding out that I'm OCD, I never thought of myself as like properly OCD because I wasn't going and flicking on the light switches. I didn't have to have everything in order. But like I put my books in rainbow order, stuff like that. That's really satisfying. Yeah. But
you ever see Malcolm in the Middle?
I mean, I know the show, but I never really watched it.
Their dad on there, because the one kid was or the one kid's like he was spending the night at the kid's house or the Malcolm's house, And he was a neighbor's kid, but he has like no
Hmm.
friends because he's really weird. And everyone's like, well, he's like cutting up shirts, replacing red with blue, red with blue, red with blue, and just doing all these
Hmm.
crazy things. And the dad goes, let me help him out. He goes, what do you mean? He's crazy. Stay away from him. He's got an axe. He grabs the axe from the kid's hand and goes, you want to know how I deal with my OCD? And he pulls down Webster's dictionary and he opens it up. And on each page, all the certain words with T's, R's, Q's, whatever, are all circled. And he goes, this is how I do it. I just do this,
Wow.
circle these, and once I get it out, I'm good all day. And then like he shows it to him,
Wow.
and it's like,
I might have
yeah,
to try that.
I think there's a good and a bad way with everything. If it helps somebody get through something, then go ahead and do it. But if it's
Yeah.
physically hurting somebody else or it's causing you to like, even with the gym addiction thing, there were
Yeah.
times I wouldn't go to restaurants. I would miss out on things. I
Hmm.
needed to do this certain thing. Since I've worked out every day for 9 years, my clock has changed all around the
Hmm.
spectrum. I've gone the full 24 hours where it's been like, I'll go 1 a.m. and then a month later it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4, and it just
Hmm.
keeps going around. So I've seen the whole encounter of gym people.
Yeah.
The easiest thing is that if somebody's trying to make their life better by trying to get in shape, if they're out of shape or if they're trying to find a new crutch because what the crutch they're on is literally hurting their life,
Hmm.
then don't dismiss them for that. I mean, that's the biggest
Sure.
issue is a lot of people want to show off when they get in the gym, which there is a point to, but it also is about like you're working out because you're working out. It's for you. It's
Right.
not for everyone
Because you
else in the
want to
room
feel
to
good.
admire. Yeah.
Right, right. And it does feel good to be like someone noticing that you're doing well, or that oh hey, you know what? Like I saw them a month ago and they're, killing it or whatever. That does feel good, even if no one comes out and says that specifically. But yeah, I'm all about bettering yourself. But as I got this diagnosis, I started to understand things about myself. I was like, I just thought I was weird, like especially as a kid, because like I would count on my fingers all the time in class, be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I go like 1, 2, 3, and like just back and forth and counting little things all the time. And it got to the point like I couldn't stop doing it, and I had to consciously like stop myself from counting, and I got out of that habit, thank goodness. But it was really weird and intense, and I didn't even think anything about it, this
I was
weird
about to
sort of
attack you from a
counting.
psychology standpoint because I wouldn't do it on air, obviously, but I'd be like, that's a behavioral thing. That's something that happened when you were young. I was like, what happened?
Hmm.
Your cope because that's a coping mechanism is the finger taps.
Huh.
The coping's the finger
Interesting.
taps, and then mostly it's stuff with your body language. From what I've learned, is that
Hmm.
it's coping mechanisms when you're doing something to yourself. Some people will
Yeah.
pluck their eyebrows,
Right.
and
Yep.
some people will do certain things with their hair. Some people itch
Hmm.
their chin. Some like for me, I rub my hands together when I'm feeling uncomfortable. I rub my
Okay.
that sound is just because you said you walk around barefoot. So
Yeah.
I used to do that a lot when I did jet
Uh-huh.
skis. I would walk like miles barefoot. So
Yeah.
my hands, where the calluses are, ended up becoming what my feet were. They were
Shit.
just all
Right.
callous. So I used to step
Hmm.
on coals. I used to step on a bunch of stuff and just
Yeah.
not even feel it. But yeah, body language is a sign of somebody's coping with something
Yeah.
behavioral wise. But then if you're doing
Interesting.
things like adjusting note pins or adjusting certain things, it's a fact of deorganization, which you could probably analyze that in a dream, analyze that with maybe what's going on
Right.
in your life and trying to figure out you're trying to sort stuff in front of you because there are things inside of you that you can't sort. And that's just, they're all different.
That
Everybody's
makes
got a
sense.
different interpretation of it. I'm just like, fuck, maybe it's everything. Maybe you're just like you want things to be straight. Is that an issue? I mean, and maybe in society, people can be whatever they want, but
Yeah,
you
as
want your
long as it's
pens on your
not.
desk straight.
Right, right. So, okay, so a few things real quick that I do that are really weird to this day. Well, understandable, some of them, but weird nonetheless. If I'm in someone's house, even if I don't know them, and I see a crooked picture, I will straighten it. If the toilet paper is wrong on the roll, I'm like, oh, bless their hearts, but also monster. And I switch it around. I've even done it in like public bathrooms, but mostly at like other people's houses. And like, I'm like, I don't care. Like, this is just something I do. But the way I eat foods has, especially as a kid, it was really bizarre. I would pick things apart, like entire sandwiches, I would dismantle and eat them in order of least to favorite thing. But now, like a Twix, I'll eat the entire caramel layer, and then I'll eat the chocolate around the outside, and then the little biscuit cookie on the inside. Or Kit Kat, I'll eat the chocolate around the outside, and then top layer, bottom layer, and then middle layers. And it would be so satisfying when I could break them apart without breaking the cookie itself. Chicken nuggets, I'll eat the outside breading and then dip it in sweet and sour, specifically McDonald's, which I don't eat often, but and then I'll eat it that way. So just little things like that I still carry around, that is again part of OCD. And that's what you were saying, how ADHD or an OCD present very similarly, is that people who have ADHD will do like I was doing, where you'll clean everything and it'll be like spontaneous and random. But that's how you order your life. That's how you focus your ADHD, is being able to kind of hone in and zone in and focus. And that's why they present so similarly. Like, is it because you're so unfocused and all over the place that you have to gather yourself? Or is it OCD that you need everything to be arranged because it's making you uncomfortable? So it just depends on why you're doing it, but they look really similar. So I find that very, very fascinating.
We're going to talk off air about a few of those things you were talking about, because I have a couple. My main question is about, do you ever like find it games when you're a kid, or scavenger games where you had to like point out a bunch of stuff and uncover a bunch of stuff to get down to what the true thing is?
Oh yeah, that Where's Waldo? Yeah,
Okay.
anything like that.
We'll talk off
100%.
air. I know it's Edis.
Oh no.
Not bad. It's just
You're
that
diagnosed, Carla. You were certifiably crazy. So,
no,
but my
it's
main
normal.
question, hey, normal
That
is
just
crazy,
stems. It
crazy.
just stems from something when you're a kid, probably that happened, which is that's why I say we'll talk off air about it.
Sure, sure. Therapy with Robbie. We'll start a new podcast
I'm
together.
not a therapist. I've read it might relate to you. It
Unofficial
might not.
therapist.
Yeah.
Unofficial, but I'm definitely excited
Armchair
to hear.
therapist.
There you go. I used to work at a porn store when I was 18, and I used to call
What?
myself an amateur sex therapist. I went from smut jockey to amateur sex therapist. And it was, I helped couples out. It was pretty good. So I wanted to ask you though, do you think knowing a diagnosis helps someone, or can it hurt them? Like, I'm like, okay, well, I've been diagnosed OCD. I've never really done work around it, but I'm starting to notice patterns and things that I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. That makes me feel better. But now am I really embracing it and like taking it to another level? Or do you
If you
feel
would
if
have
people are
asked
like,
me
uh
maybe a year ago, I would have said, yeah, it helps to figure out what it is, but also I think it hurts, because I read about the
yeah.
nocebo effect, which is giving understanding a false. I've mentioned it many times on this podcast, but giving a false diagnosis. They actually did a study where they found autopsies, or they uncovered in
Mhm.
autopsies that a cancer was benign, but the patient had been given a terminal diagnosis of cancer, and this person's body started
Wow.
experiencing signs of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
This is like my biggest issue, because so many people are getting away out of their loved ones because they might have COVID in a hospital or something. You need your family, you need positivity around you at that
Right.
time. And if you think 100% I'm dying of a terminal illness and no one is going to be able to see me when I die, you keep thinking death, 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 death.
Right. That's what
Eventually
you
you're,
manifest.
yeah. So it goes down a whole other
No,
rabbit
no,
hole.
that makes sense. I think being diagnosed with depression or anxiety, again, having the diagnosis of anxiety, which was fueled by my addiction, because not sleeping. So this is what happens when you drink alcohol. You don't actually get into a REM cycle ever when you drink a lot. So you never
Sleep
actually
apnea.
properly sleep. Right. So you never properly sleep, and then you wake up the next day, and not only have you not slept, you are have anxiety about your drinking, you're feeling really bad. So what do? You drink to deal with your anxiety, because you don't know how to deal with it, and wash, rinse, repeat, the whole cycle starts over. But once I got the diagnosis of anxiety, I started embracing that and being like, oh, again, that's what anxiety looks like. That's what that feeling is like. Social anxiety. I recognize I don't like going places where I don't know anyone, like gatherings, like going to a bar, or like what if I went to some sort of conference and I didn't know anyone there? You have to schmooze and network. I hate that. I hate that. I need introductions. I need warm introductions. I need to be there with someone to kind of break that ice. And I used to use alcohol to do that. Like, sober, I struggle and it makes me uncomfortable. And alcohol, I was everyone's best friend. I didn't care who you were. We were talking, we were going to have a great time. Then I wouldn't remember any of it. So, or would end up going home and sleeping with someone that I probably shouldn't have. So, there was a lot of consequences to it. But now I'm just like, I just don't put myself in that situation. And I'm okay with that. And I feel better for it. So recognizing that anxiety, but now is it giving me more anxiety? Or are people using depression as an excuse to not function or, do things right. I'm wondering, I'm not, accusing anyone of lying about what's going on, or like you said, having that placebo effect of, oh, I'm
Nocebo.
depressed. What was that?
Nocebo. It's the opposite of placebo. So it's the opposite. Like you don't have it at all, but someone gives you that diagnosis. Like I could say you have, and here's the, oh my God, I can't even say that because that'll be, wait, maybe I'll post this after that one. My buddy got a COVID test and it told him he did have COVID, but he didn't have any symptoms. And then he asked the doctor about the COVID test and the doctor's like, we don't even really know. Like that's true. And he's not a conspiracy guy. So when he said that to me, he was like, this is when I started seeing the conspiracy eyes on him. I was like, oh my God, you're understanding why everybody's crazy about this now. And he goes, if they don't know and they tell you have COVID and they don't even know if the test is a yes or no, it's just whatever. He goes, then you're telling someone they have COVID, then they might experience symptoms of COVID. And I was like, all right, dude, now we're fucking going down a rabbit hole.
Same with the vaccine though. People are like,
oh, please don't.
Oh yeah. Oh God. Sorry.
I can't. I've had too many episodes about this. Everyone is talking about COVID. I'm like, let's have one good one where we don't have COVID talk.
Okay.
Save it for next episode because we're going to talk about your anxieties too. But I have to use the little camper's restroom.
Wait, what?
Little camper's restroom.
I have no idea what that is.
The little small man's room. The bathroom. I got to go to the bathroom.
I'm like, why didn't you just say you have to go to the bathroom?
I don't know. Why when you're in college, do kids still raise their hand when they can just get up and walk out? You got your keys to your car. You're paying to go to school, but they still do it.
Yeah, fun fact, kids in other countries don't have to do that. They just get up and go to the bathroom. In America, they think we're weird for that. They're like, you have to go use the bathroom. Just go.
I love it when
my
teacher in school, elementary school, used to be like, no, you have to sit and wait until I'm done with my speech. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to piss right here. And then they'd be like, all right, you're an ISS. I'm like, I can go to the bathroom on my way to ISS. You're giving me what I want, but in a different way. Thank you.
Right. Okay. So before I let you go to the bathroom, one more thing. So you know how your mom always said, did you use the bathroom before you went and had like a long drive somewhere? Use the bathroom before you go. Cause when we're on the road, we're not stopping. And I am going to call bullshit on that, because if you have to take a shit or you have to pee, your mom's not going to let you do that in her car. Let's face it. She'll stop. So I'm calling BS on all moms out there, because you're going to stop. So
it's a good point.
Yeah.
Unless you're with my grandmom and then she's like, no, I'm not, you piss yourself right now. And then people did.
No, nope. I had a friend that was on a road trip. He was 20 something. And he said, like, all of a sudden, sometimes those, I call them hot poops, when those like hit your stomach. Yeah. And you're like, oh no. And you're like, you have to go. He was like, I'm in the car with my girlfriend in the back. My parents are there. We're kind of like middle of the desert. All they have is like giant tumbleweeds and some shrubs. He made them pull over middle of the highway, books it to behind the nearest shrub, and like just shits everywhere. And they knew what he was doing. And he gets back in the car and everyone is silent. I mean, like, he's a proper adult. He's not a teenager. He's like 20 something. And he's like, it was the most mortifying thing of my life. Nobody said a word. And then 20 minutes later, they're down the road and they're like, you okay? You good? He's like, and they just rest the time in silence. Yeah. So I'm like, thank God I've never had anything quite that embarrassing bathroom related. That would be a great show or a great episode. Worst bathroom, public bathroom experiences. So trash toilets of Instagram, beautiful way to go.
All right.
Well, go before you have a hot poop.
We're going to do another episode again. Okay. That was awesome.